Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is another episode of the Championship Roundup. So this is now episode 29 of the Championship Roundup, and I'm actually bringing this video to you guys on a Sunday, which is pretty unheard of for me. I don't normally upload at the weekend, but as all the fixtures are now done and out of the way for this weekend, I thought I'd do an earlier upload, as I do normally upload the Championship Roundup on a Monday. So I thought I'd bring it to you guys a little bit earlier than usual. So leave a like on the video if you would like to see them more often on a Sunday rather than on the Monday. So of course, what I would love to know from you guys is basically leave a comment in the comments down below as to how your team performed this weekend. I will be very interested to know, as well as that, who do you think scored the goal of the weekend and who got the result of the weekend as well. I'll be revealing what I thought they were at the end of the video, but I'll be interested to know what you guys had to say about them. And as well as that, make sure you do go ahead and vote on all the polls which I will post for you guys basically in this video. You'll find a link to that in the top right hand corner, and then you can easily vote on the polls. So just before we do discuss any of the action, guys, I will include your comments on screen now. So if any of you guys did successfully manage to predict any of the scorelines taking place this weekend, I will include your comment on screen now. So fair play to everyone who did correctly guess a score prediction correctly. This week I managed to get 2 score predictions correct, which wasn't too bad going for me. I managed to get the Derby against Nottingham Forest game correct, and also the Wigan against Aston Villa game. So I managed to get 2 score predictions correct this week, and FIFA actually got none of theirs correct. So basically this week we basically smashed FIFA. So that's about all that. We'll get into this week's action now, guys. Let's go. So guys, our first game that we had to talk about was the game taking place on Friday night, and it was taking place between Bristol City and Huddersfield Town, and oh my word, I don't even know where to start with this game, to be honest. It ended Bristol City 4, Huddersfield Town 0. This was just, no one saw this coming. I mean, no one saw this coming. There was one person in the comments down below who left a comment with this exact score prediction. I'll leave that comment on screen now, so fair play for getting this score prediction right. I don't know how you've done it, but somehow this was actually predicted in the comments down below. But in terms of talking over the game, Huddersfield weren't aided early on by the injury of Jonathan Hogg, and he has actually now been ruled out for the rest of the season, which is unfortunate for Huddersfield, and we obviously all wish him a speedy recovery in that aspect. But Bristol City in this game were just absolutely fantastic. What I was really impressed with Bristol City in this game was the tempo that they actually imposed onto Huddersfield. They really did put them under pressure from the first minute, and that showed with some of the goals which Huddersfield conceded. You know, some very sloppy defending from them, which is something we've not really associated with Huddersfield this season. I mean, that was epitomised really with Lee Tomlin's first goal. But in terms of Bristol City's key men in this game, in my opinion, it was their 2 wide men, David Cottrell and Callum O'Dowda, were both absolutely sublime for Bristol City in this game, amongst other players as well. And I've got to give a shout out as well to Aidan Flint for scoring that goal. If you've not seen it, make sure you go check out that goal that Aidan Flint scored in this one. It was such a cheeky attempt with a little flick past the keeper into the bottom corner by like a 6'6" centre back. What a result this was for Bristol City. And then for our next game, guys, we had Sheffield Wednesday, who came up against Reading. This was also a game taking place on Friday night, and Reading actually managed to come away with a 2-0 victory. And I think a lot of this game has to be attributed to with the fantastic saves which came out of Ali Al Habsi in this one. He was just absolutely on fire in this game, and it was actually quite pivotal really that Reading came back in this one with a real statement of intent after a very disappointing result they got last time out away to Preston. It was really crucial that they came out and got this result. But in terms of Sheffield Wednesday, they weren't actually too bad. They did actually create a lot of chances in this game. It was just Ali Al Habsi who was just saving absolutely everything. I know Reading cleared quite a few chances off the line as well, but the second goal of course came when Sheffield Wednesday were really pushing up the pitch, and Reading managed to catch them out on that one. But in the end, Reading have walked away with the victory. That could be a huge 3 points come the end of the season, and Sheffield Wednesday could still miss out on the playoffs. Then for our next game, guys, we have a Lancashire derby to talk over. So this is one which I actually went ahead and went to. It was Blackburn who went up against Preston North End, and it finished 2-2 in the end. So this game started out quite positively for Preston, as Tom Bakusa managed to get on the score sheet yet again, and oh my word, he's just absolutely on fire at this point in time. When he got that goal after 30 minutes, I thought, you know what, yeah, we could be onto something with getting something from this game, but that wasn't to be the case. Blackburn Rovers came straight back into this game, and the game finished level at half-time as 1-1, but really Blackburn should have gone into half-time leading this game. Really, for the majority of the first half, they were absolutely all over us, and really what was required from Preston was a formation change. I was puzzled really why Grayson was persisting with with the 4-4-2 formation away from home as long as he has been, really. At home, it's been working really well, but in our away games recently, you know, I look at the latest examples of teams coming up against like Derby and Fulham away, Barnsley as well. When we've been playing that 4-4-2, it's not really been working for us, so I was a little bit surprised in that aspect, but in my opinion, the game changed for Preston when Paul Gallagher came on. He added a new impetus into our midfield. He was a very calming influence and just so composed on the ball, and he actually had a large part to play in actually the equaliser, which Preston got in the last minute thanks to Aidan McGeady. But in terms of how the game went for Preston, we were far from our best in this one, and we're probably a little bit fortunate to get a point because I did think that Blackburn were actually very good in this game, and Lucas Jow going forward for Blackburn was seriously good in this one. Then for our next game, guys, we had Nottingham Forest, who came up against Derby County, so we had another local derby to talk over, and this one was actually a very lively affair to talk about indeed. So of course it was two new managers coming up against each other in Mark Warburton and Gary Rowett, and in the end it ended all square. But this was probably a game of two halves, really. In the first half, Nottingham Forest were actually very impressive. They were playing some very nice football indeed, and that was rounded up with them going into half-time with the 1-0 lead. I think it was the Zach Clough goal which managed to give Nottingham Forest a lead. Some very questionable defending from Derby, I think it's fair to say, but in the second half, Derby County definitely showed a response to get the 2 goals and to actually go 2-1 up, but then Forest managed to bring it back in the last minute with an equaliser. So once again, we had quite a dramatic local derby. In the end, it finished level. I'd probably say it was the fair result. And then for our next game, guys, we had Birmingham City, who came up against Newcastle United, and in the end, this one actually managed to finish as a goalless draw, which was not really a result which we'd have been anticipating to be a goalless draw, to be completely honest. Lately, Newcastle have been a little bit hit and miss, really, in terms of going forward. We've seen them draw a blank a couple of times this season, and this was one of those games, but I think a lot of that has to be contributed to for Thomas Kujak. He had an absolutely terrific game for Birmingham City in this one. He was keeping all sorts of shots out, especially late on in this match when Newcastle really ramped up the pressure on Birmingham. They were able to withhold that, so fair play to Birmingham. It's a good point for them in the end. Newcastle were also a little bit unfortunate. They did have a goal ruled out for offside, which was very close. I think the decision was just right. He looked to be just offside, but it was very close. Then for our next game, guys, we had a massive game going on for Burton Albion, and this one was just a real roller coaster of everything going on in this match. In the end, it managed to finish Burton Albion 3, Brentford 5, and I just couldn't believe this game, to be honest. I mean, going in at half-time, Burton had a 3-1 lead, and you'd think that going into half-time at home as well, with how Burton have been playing recently, they've been on a nice run of form recently, you thought, you know what, Burton are definitely going to go ahead and close out this game. But really, this season, you just can't count out Brentford with some of the attacking threats that they're going forward. They've got a lot of creativity, I think it's fair to say, in that Brentford side, and they showed it in that second half. Being able to bring this game back and then going on to win the game by a clear 2 goals was just absolutely magnificent for Brentford. But it really has left Burton in a sticky situation, because come the end of the season, this could be why they're relegated. Then for our next game, guys, we had Cardiff City, who came up against Ipswich Town, and in this one, Cardiff managed to take all 3 points with a 3-1 victory. And in the end, it was actually a very impressive performance from Cardiff City. It was quite a dominant performance from them, really, and Ipswich never really got too close to them. I mean, I know Ipswich did take the lead in this game thanks to Chambers, who got a goal in the 23rd minute, but even so, that sort of came against a run of play for Ipswich, and overall their play just wasn't to be competed with from Cardiff, really. They were just all over them from minute 1, and this game now has actually left Ipswich only 5 points off the relegation zone, which is actually quite staggering, really, because Ipswich went on like an 8-game unbeaten run or something like that. So for them to be still really looming over with that impending relegation, it's really just going to show how crazy the Championship is. So Ipswich very well could still be dragged into a relegation battle, but a good win for Cardiff nevertheless. Then for our next game, guys, we had another crazy game taking place. We had Fulham, who came up against Wolves, and in the end, Wolves managed to take full advantage with a 3-1 victory, and this is now actually Wolves' second win on the bounce, which has really helped them lift themselves above the relegation zone. So going up against this game against Fulham, not many people were anticipating a Wolves victory, and I suppose suppose rightly so, really. Fulham, of course, are the form team in the league at the moment, playing some really attractive football recently, but this just wasn't their game today, and Wolves were absolutely excellent in this one. And Wolves have been a really funny side this season, because earlier on in the season we were seeing them play some really nice football. Players like Bodvarsson earlier on in the season with Helder Costa were on absolute fire, but ever since we've of course seen them have a managerial change, we've seen them in the relegation zone at parts of the season, so it's really been a funny one for them. But this victory was definitely needed for them, and Weimann had an absolutely terrific game for Wolves in this match, but a disappointing one for Fulham, especially as Sheffield Wednesday lost this weekend. That was a massive chance for them to go ahead and climb into the playoffs, but they missed out on that opportunity. And then for our next game we had Norwich City, who came up against Barnsley, and in the end Norwich managed to walk away with a 2-0 victory over Barnsley. Now, I'd say really going into this game, neither of these sides really have too much to play for come the end of the season. I'd say that Norwich have probably the slimmest chance of making the playoffs come the end of the season, but I don't really think that'll happen. I think even the most ambitious of Norwich City fans doesn't really think that'll happen either. But nevertheless, it was a very nice victory for Norwich against a Barnsley side which lately have been actually struggling for a little bit of form. They'll of course be looking to rectify that in the near future, but a nice performance, a nice goal as well from Murphy in this one to wrap up the victory. And in the end, Barnsley weren't great. Norwich, decent win for them. And then going into our next game, guys, we had QPR, who came up against Rotherham United, and in this game this weekend actually, Rotherham could have been relegated into League One. However, that has now been prolonged thanks to results going Rotherham's way this weekend, so they've actually not been relegated just yet, but I think we all know what's to come for Rotherham really. But in this game, Rotherham actually got off to a decent start in this one. They managed to take a 1-0 lead in this one after just 13 minutes, but after that QPR just absolutely went in on Rotherham really, and you do feel a little bit sorry for Rotherham, especially the fans that go to all the games really. A fair play, because that if you're still a Rotherham fan going to all the away games, you are the most hardcore of football fans out there. To see your team getting beat 5-1. QPR actually lately have been in a very nice run of form. I think Matt Smith especially has been in a really nice goal scoring form at this point in time, but a nice victory for QPR. It was to be expected though. Then for our second to last fixture, guys, we had Wigan Athletic, who came up against Aston Villa, and in the end Aston Villa managed to go ahead and claim all 3 points with a 2-1 victory over Wigan Athletic. And this game looked to be heading towards a draw. Later on in this match was still a goalless draw, and really that's what we've associated with Wigan Athletic so far this season, them playing out for these goalless draws. But even so, that's not going to be enough for Wigan this season. They really need to start going for victories in this league now if they are going to have any chance of survival. I mean, week by week, Wigan's chances of survival are getting slimmer by slimmer, and especially as teams like Bristol City went ahead and won this weekend, and other sides around the bottom also won as well. It's just going to look harder for Wolves now, Wigan, especially as they are without a manager as well. But not to take anything away from Aston Villa, of course, they did manage to snatch the victory. And Scott Hogan as well also managed to get his first goal for Aston Villa. So hopefully for him that will be the first of many, as I do think he's actually a very good striker for this division especially. And I think if Aston Villa do manage to get that partnership working between Scott Hogan and Jonathan Kodjia, next season they could be onto something. And then for our final game to talk over this weekend, guys, we had Leeds United, who came up against Brighton, and in the end Leeds managed to walk away with a 2-0 victory over Brighton. And once again, this could very well be the result of the weekend, because it was a massive result for Leeds United to go ahead and pick up all 3 points after a bit of doubt has been thrown Leeds' way, recently with a couple of their results recently. But they've gone ahead and proved all the doubters wrong in this game, and Chris Wood once again has been the man to step up for Leeds. He's just, whenever they've been in need of a goal this season, Chris Wood has been the guy to step up. His first goal that he scored in this one, a header which he sort of went back on himself and then generated an almighty amount of power for the ball to go into the back of the net. That was a fantastic one, and of course the victory was wrapped up with the penalty that he scored. But in terms of Brighton, they actually had the chance to go top of the Championship. A victory in this game would have actually sent them to the top of the Championship, with of course Newcastle only drawing this weekend, but they missed out on that opportunity, and quite a disappointing one for Brighton really. They had a couple of chances in this game, but Rob Green really was on form for this Leeds side, and I've said it a couple of times this season, but in terms of who's going to win the playoffs, it's all about going into the end of the season with a lot of momentum, and if Leeds can carry on these sort of performances, they could be a shoo-in for winning the playoffs. So there you have it, guys. That will wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup, guys. So if you guys have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. But now, guys, it is time for my goal of the weekend and my result of the weekend. So first of all, my goal of the weekend, there are quite a few contenders that I could give this one to, and I'd be interested to know actually what you guys have to say about this one. I'll leave a poll so you guys can go ahead and vote on who you think scored the goal of the weekend. But this weekend, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Aidan Flint, just because it was a centre-back that scored the goal, how tall he was, and just the audacity for a player like Aidan Flint to be carrying out that sort of finish with just a flick into the bottom corner. My goal of the weekend is going to go to Aidan Flint. And you know what, guys? My result of the weekend is going to go to Bristol City as well, just because to win 4-0 against Huddersfield Town when so much doubt has been thrown Bristol City's way recently, and of course just a lot of things, I think it's fair to say, haven't gone their way this season, but this weekend Bristol City have definitely come out on top, and to go ahead and pick up a 4-0 victory at home to a side like Huddersfield is just absolutely magnificent. So my result of the weekend is going to go to Bristol City. Let me know down below what you guys think of that. So guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So like I said, if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, if you would like to see regular Championship content, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you go ahead and drop me a follow on Twitter, as I always tweet before I upload a video. Therefore, I'll never miss a video ever again, guys. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.